Hey everybody, this is Kyle Stenerson with Humble Roots Farm, and today I am going to bring you through the process of one of the biggest projects I've ever done, and that is having an instant blueberry farm. Now, you can see this field behind me. There's nothing in it. It's just a field with flags and a guy doing some work back there. I have so as a part of what we do here at the farm, we grow all kinds of different things. We try to grow as much meats and vegetables in the widest variety as possible. One of the things I love to eat, but I've never grown here on this land, is blueberries, any perennial fruits, because I don't actually own this land. I'm renting this land, and what the future may hold, I don't know. And it's hard. It was hard for me to conceive of planting a big old field of blueberries when I knew they would take 3, 4, 5 years to really get a good crop out of them. And so I recently was able to acquire about 600 fully mature blueberry plants that the only thing I had to do was get them from where they're planted to here. Now, I quickly realized that this is a major project. It involves a few different steps. The first thing we have to do is we have to dig a bunch of holes. To do that, I rented a piece of equipment called a skid steer, and it's got an attachment on the front of it called a tree spade, and it's basically 3 hydraulic shovels that push into the ground and they dig a perfect hole. We then take that equipment to the field of blueberries that I'm digging up, and we're going to dig those same plants out. We're going to put them on a trailer, we're going to bring them here to the farm, and we're going to drop them right in the holes. So they're going to be out of the ground maximum about an hour and a half, and hopefully that they should transplant well. Now, as I start thinking about things like this, a few things come to mind. Number one, I start to think about how are we going to maneuver these blueberry plants? When you do the calculation of the size of root ball we're going to be digging up, each plant weighs about 400 to 450 pounds. Now that's give or take if some soil falls off or whatever happens there, but it's going to take some strength to maneuver these plants and to get them around the trailer and then to get them into the holes. This isn't just a let's go pick all these blueberry plants up, bring them here, and we'll put them in the ground. This is going to take quite a few trips. We can only fit about 15 plants per trailer, and we've got 2 trailers to use, and so it's going to take some time, it's going to take some organization, but ultimately I think it's going to be really worth it, because this field behind me is going to go from having nothing in it to being fully planted with blueberries that will fruit next year. So that's one of the big advantages that we're trying to go for here. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. I get myself into these situations where I have this, somebody gives me this great opportunity, like I get a cheap greenhouse and it's super long, but it's located 2.5 hours away. And I say, okay guys, we're gonna go dismantle this thing, and you start pulling it up, there's concrete footings, and you gotta rent the concrete saw, you gotta bust it all up. That was one of the big projects I did. Another one was taking out a walk-in cooler from an old grocery store, and that was a huge mess and a huge ordeal. So I don't exactly know how complicated this is going to be. I just, in my mind, think that it's going to be great. So we're going to get into it, dig some holes, and it's going to be about a week-long project. These are the holes that we're digging. They are about 3 feet wide at the top and about 2 feet deep. And our soil here is pretty darn sandy, but this area has a little more clay and it holds water a little bit and nutrients a little bit better. Anyway, they're 5 feet apart from middle to middle. And then from this row to that row, so this is within the row spacing, 5 feet apart, row to row is 12 feet apart. You can space them as close to as 10, but I like a little more room because I'll be moving around in here and dropping these plants. And these are fully mature trees also, and so I want to have as much room as possible. We're going to probably have to fill this hole in a little bit when we get back here, because some of the bottom of the root ball is probably going to fall out, and so we're going to have some soil that we've dug out of here, we'll just fill it back in as we need it. But I don't even know how many holes this is. I mean, this first row, we're gonna have 4 rows, and then we're gonna have it a few partial rows. And I think this is like, Josh, you think it's like 50, 60 holes? Something like that. Hey, so I'm at the farm that I'm getting the blueberries from, and I just wrapped up. And you can see behind me, that is where I took them from. We went in there with that bobcat and just scooped them up, loaded them onto trailers. We did about 14 to 16 at a time, and then I had one of my good friends come with his gooseneck trailer, and we were able to get 44 on each load of those. So in total, we got about 250 plants from here and planted them at the farm in a nice big hole. So we're gonna top dress with some compost and hope they take, and we'll have blueberries this spring. All right, so here we are. The blueberry plants are planted. We planted these 5 feet apart in the row, 12 feet apart between rows. And the total area that we planted in this section and then one more section over across the way is about 1/4 of an acre. Now that doesn't in your mind, well, that's not that much, but 1/4 of an acre is 12,000, like just around 12,000 square feet. So it's a large area. We have these runs that are 250 feet long, and this is going to be a ton of blueberries. If you see on these plants right here, each one of these little buds is going to leaf out. And within those buds, there's also everything they need to create flowers. So each one of these little buds is going to create multiple flowers and create multiple blueberries. So there's buds all over these plants. And in reality, we only got about 350 plants. So we were going to go for 600, but due to the space we had available, we were only able to get about 350. Plus, we only had the machine for a week, and it took a lot of time to get those plants out of there. When we came back to the farm, we noticed that the holes were a little too deep, so we backfilled the holes a little bit, and we just drove down the way with the tractor, and we laid the plants in the holes, and then we were able to get some compost and put it around the seam of where the native soil and the new soil from the blueberry plants met. So we filled in that space, and it creates a nice little environment for the microbes to start really getting active right on top of the soil. One thing that's going to happen with these, what I'm anticipating, is because we dug up these plants and we did cut some of the root system, there's going to be a certain percentage of these nice pieces of red growth here that are going to die off. And that's because if you think about a root system, it's all these little veins feeding into this plant. And so if you cut off a certain percentage of them, then the plant is going to do a good job of repairing those different channels to feed the tops of the plant. But inevitably, it's going to have a little bit of it that's going to die. So I didn't prune these back. These do need to be pruned. But I didn't prune them back yet because I'm waiting to see which ones are not going to do as well this spring. Now we will get a crop of blueberries off this spring, I'm pretty sure, so we'll see how that turns out. But we will have a percentage of it's going to die, and then at that point I'm going to be coming through this plot and I'm going to be taking some of these canes out of here, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do when I do that. So within this dense understory of these plants, you have all these different canes that are growing at different directions, and some of them are touching each other. Like this example right here, this is growing this way, that's growing that way. This is going to cross over to here. So with this old growth, I'm going to be removing whichever ones are not looking so good at the tops, and I'm going to try to remove about 20 to 30%. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow more of this stuff, more of these canes to start shooting up and creating a nice, more full and younger plant stock, because you're going to want these guys to replace these old ones eventually. But overall, these are really nice looking plants. They have a lot of great potential as long as we can, we got them in at just the right time. We did it in the end of December, and they were fully dormant, and we were able to bring them here. And if all goes well, they should prove to be a really great investment for years to come. So if you're growing blueberries at home, the time to prune the plants are going to be after they fruit. So after you've collected all your fruit off your plants, you're going to look through your plants and the centers of your plants, and you're going to see which canes are kind of crossing each other and which ones need to be removed to kind of open up the middle here. You don't want to do that right before the spring, because they're already loaded with all these little buds, and you don't want to detract from any of your fruit sets. So that's the situation we've got, and really encouraged to see all these plants still looking really, really good. And pretty soon we'll see what it looks like in the spring when they start to leaf out. So hey, quick plug, if you enjoyed this and if you enjoyed what we're doing here, we do have an online gardening course that we've developed, and it is something that we take you through how to develop and build an organic system into your backyards, small farms. It fits any size. It's scalable. So whether you have a few raised beds in your backyard, or you have a little 1/8 of an acre plot or a 1 acre plot, it's not necessarily the scale of what you're doing. It's the principles of how you see the soil, how you treat the soil, how you see soil, plants, irrigation, and protection. Those are our 4 pillars. So if that interests you, I've got a description in the link below, and or I've got a link in the description below. And so go ahead and check that out. And thanks for watching. If you like this, like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.